everyone, this week we will learn how to do this winter landscape painting in watercolors. Welcome everyone, thanks for joining me on studio where I share my passion for watercolor paintings. My name is Dinesh. Today we are diving into painting a winter landscape in watercolor. It's going to be relaxed and a straightforward process where I will guide you through each step. The gentle warmth of sunlight and the cool shadows across this snowy landscape. Before you go, be sure to hit the subscribe button to become a part of our learning community. By subscribing, you will receive weekly upload notifications and stay updated on our artistic journey together. Now without further ado, let's get started everyone. Before we start the painting, I'll give some material list, and these are the materials I've been using in this painting. So I always go for Saunders Waterford, and this is cold press 9 by 12 inches. And I usually do a daily painting, so I try to do it small, and if I like this painting I take it and do it in a bigger paper. When it comes to reference, I found this reference on Pinterest. I usually look for a lot of inspiration in there. And when it comes to reference, I try to find 2 or 3 references and combine it together. But here, this has really nice, really nice atmospheric landscape with a lot of light coming from. And I really enjoy the mood, that's why I picked this reference. And a lot of people talk about colors and why I don't talk about colors that much. And I usually give, tell like what colors I'm using in the painting. But however, even when I show my palette and I show you what color exactly I'm missing, when you do the painting, you will have your own color sense. So this comes by experience, and as you paint, you tend to have your own color sense as well. And I didn't get it in the beginning. Whenever I look for tutorials or videos, when I learn, I look for the colors. When I try to paint it, it doesn't look exactly the same. So we tend to put colors as it impresses, not like what we see. So now let's talk about the sketching. For the sketching, I usually focus on the big primary shapes, and I look for the secondary shapes and tertiary shapes as I've shown in this image. And as you can see, first I'm thinking about the sky first, then I'm thinking about the buildings, then I'll think about the foreground and the road. Let's apply our first wash, and one more thing I did is I added a figure in the foreground just to create a scale of the painting. And I also want to make sure that I sped up this video and it is 5 times faster, and don't think that I paint this faster. And when I see the reference, there's a lot of warmer orangish yellow there, so I used a cadmium yellow from the tube. And I left some white bits here and there. I'm taking some tissue paper to get rid of some of the painting here and there. So that's going to look like the light is peeking through and coming from the back. And again, I'm doing the exact same thing and applying some more orange on top of it. Cadmium yellow on top of it. This is just to do that whenever we paint in watercolors, you have to keep in mind that you have to overdo it, because the colors want to go a little dry and pale. So if you put a value of 5 or 6, it's going to go in the value of 3 or 4. You will see it looks really bright, and you will see that it gets lighter as it dries out. And I took the same yellow and I also applied it on the ground as well. And this is going to act as like the first wash and underneath the layer. So when we add a shadow on top of it, so this light will peek through. So this is kind of like a negative painting you can think of. So now I'm adding the first wash for the houses. And the other thing, I did a mistake that my wash was wet. In the background I tried to mix some colors and it gives this cauliflower. So don't be scared when something happens like that. Take a tissue and get rid of some of the painting, and that will help you to bring out the details back. So when I do the first wash, you have to keep in mind that whenever we are doing the first wash, I'll see the color which is close to it, but I don't match the value exactly to it. The reason being is, in watercolors, what happens is when you apply a darker value, we can't go lower on the value. So that's why I'm trying to apply washes, what I'm seeing from my reference. And there is no logic to it in the sense, and this is how I paint, but again, when you watch this tutorial, you don't have to follow it to a T, and you can also come up with your own way of putting down the wash as well. So this is how it worked for me. So this is how I think as a painter, and this is how I apply it. I slowly layer it in such a way that it makes sense for me, and I also lower my build up my value as well. And even for the figure, I know that this figure is going to be darker because I want this figure to be coming close to the foreground. So there's other thing you have to keep in mind, that things the darker value comes closer, and things which are lighter value goes in distance. And if you think about that whenever you paint, this also helps to create depth. And you can see at the bottom there's a lot of noise and trees there. So again, when you paint something like this in watercolors, since it's not an opaque medium, it's a transparency medium, so we have to make it in such a way that we can make it easy instead of going and rendering each and every foliages. And if you try to do that, you will lost in details and you will overwork the painting. And there is also another thing, a lot of beginners, as well as when I started painting, I did this too. I overworked my painting. I tried to go and detail each and every brick, each and every foliages. So I tried to simplify it, and I tried to simplify the shape. And I'm thinking like in terms of shapes, what shape is it? Is it a line, or is it a curved line, or is it like it's kind of like a straight line or anything? It's the exact same thing I do for the trees as well. So when I do the trees, I think in terms of letter V or Y. And you can see in the tree, every branches go to a Y shape. So I keep on trying to break the trees in a Y shape till I get like a lot of foliages, which looks a little bit dynamic. And again, if you see the trees, the trunks are a little bit thicker, but as it goes at the top, it gets lighter and lighter and thinner, and not lighter and lighter. Even the values are like that too. And again, you can see that I use this brush. This is a pinstripe calligraphy brush, and I take some of the paint, and it gives this a little bit of this loose edges here and there, and that kind of looks like this foliages which in distance. And again, even when I'm doing it, I'm trying to keep this in a lower value. And I'll just rub it off on my watercolor paper. Again, my watercolor paper is it's a cold press, and it has a little bit of texture in it, and that also helps to create this little bit of loose and broken up edges as well. So now I'm doing the roof. For the roof, I'm doing the blue, and if I squint my eyes, and when I see my reference, it kind of look like a purplish blue. But this is our first wash. So I'm going to put a first base wash like a blue, then I can also layer some more colors on top of it. And there's other thing when I do, I usually do this in every painting I do, is squint my eyes. So what this helps me to do is to simplify my shapes really fast for me. And now I'm focusing on the window, and for the windows in the background, there's also other thing I do. This helped me a lot into paint, is like focusing not that much details in the background than the foreground. I pick a focal point. My focal point is out in the front, as well as the person who is walking in the foreground. So I'll spend more time on them than the rest of the painting. And you could see that in a reference, it almost looked like black, but I put some French ultramarine blue and a little bit of cobalt blue on it. And for the inside, I'm using burnt amber, and again burnt amber and burnt sienna. Again, I don't want this painting to be monotonous or look like something from the photo. And that's the other thing, is not copying things as it is and having some colors in our painting. Because if we go out and see this a reference in real life, there will be lighter shades than the darker shade. Because when we capture something in a camera, what happens is it gets darker. The darkest gets really dark, and the midtone values also get darker. Because when you see in a person, there is a lot of atmosphere as well as everything happens around it. Whereas in camera, it captures really fast, so it captures darker. For the houses, I'm using the same exact mix, burnt amber and burnt sienna. and I'm also trying to add a darker value on top of it as well. So this is kind of like, I think of the second wash, and the second wash is the wash which goes on top of the wash. So think of this as a midtone value. So on the midtone value, we try to create something in the middle of the value scale. So what I'm going to do is, once I'm happy with it, then I'll add the darker value on top of it. And you can see, since it's wet, I'm trying to darken up the wash because it's a little bit darker. I'm squinting my eyes and I'm checking it. And I'm also seeing that there's also a soft shadow on the top of the roof. I'm trying to put some water and trying to get the softer edges as well. And you can see that as soon as we put, things started appearing on our scene. And you can see that we started with a really basic wash. Now as soon as we add like the midtone value or the second darker value, and you can see that the thing started looks three-dimensional and getting forms as well. And you can see the washes I kept underneath, I'm leaving as it is because that's going to act as an highlight for us, so we don't have to use white paint on top of it. And again, I'm focusing on the windows. For the windows, they have a little bit darker value and I'm building it. And again, it's wet, so I'm trying to get that darker wash on top of it. So now I'm trying to add the reflections on the windows. So I used a little bit of blue on the window. Then I used clean water to soften it at the top. So this also I add like this street poles, and what this does is street poles gives scale and it also helps to take us into the painting. So what I mean by taking us into the painting is the directional lines which is at the top of the street poles. You can see the wires which are at the top, so that will help us to take us into the painting in distance. So these are the directional lines a lot of painters use to create depth and in a way that to enhance perspective. And even when I'm doing the street pole, you can see that I'm constantly being aware of my value. There's also darker value at the top, and there's a gradient which is slowly getting lighter and lighter at the bottom. And nowadays, whenever I paint, I'm also focusing on my strokes a little bit better, because before when I painted really loose. But as I'm getting really comfortable with the watercolors now, my style is getting a little bit tighter and tighter. Because what happens is, whenever I go to exhibition or stuff, and they look for fine art, so they don't look for a lot of loose strokes, and that's why I'm training myself to have a cleaner stroke. But one thing that helped me a lot, even when I tell my students, is when we paint in the beginning, we shouldn't be trying to be tighter. We should be really loose, because that will discourage us not painting freely, because that's the main important thing. That's one thing I did it without thinking about it, is painting really loose in the beginning. Now I'm getting tighter after years of painting. And you can see I also added a figure. I also want to make sure this so that's the other thing I do, like I don't make figures darker anymore, because that looks like a big black shape. So you can see that the colors I mixed in. So there is a little bit of monotonous. There is not that much monotonous in our painting. There's a lot of colors in our painting. So now I pre-wet the paper, because you can see that there's a lot of softer shadows there. Again, you don't have to paint each individual shadows exactly as it is in the reference. You can change your shadows, and we can create our own story as well. And that's the other thing I learned doing painting for a little bit of years, is that you don't have to be close to your reference. You can change your reference and you can paint however you want, because nobody gonna say that, oh, you did something wrong. I never hear one customer complain that I did a proportion wrong or my perspective is wrong or anything like that. And you can see that I'm also mixing a little bit of this cobalt blue in the foreground, again just to create a little bit of color variation in our painting. And the other thing also enhances perspective. That's kind of perspective, how it works in real life is, things which are close to us have a bigger shadow. As it goes in distance, it gets lighter and lighter. And when I squint my eyes, my wash is not that darker. So I'm doing glazing another wash on top of it, just getting the values right. Because sometimes what happens is when we paint, we have been painting for a long time, we don't see the values and we make the values look darker. And you can see that I also made the shadow for the figure on the slope, and that also creates, there's a slope there. So this is what lighting and shadow happens. When you add like light and shadows, everything takes forms and it gives a lot of values for us. So now I'm adding the tertiary details, and as you could see it, and adding the windows and a little bit of the darker value. And I'll be adding a lot of darker value now, and I'll be spending more time on the foreground than the rest of the painting. And now when I see the reference, the values looks darker on the houses, but I made a little bit lighter. That's fine. But again, still it reads the form and everything in our painting, as well as the shadows and the light. And you can see that I spend more time on the foreground than the rest of the painting. And now I'll add the tertiary details, is the streetwires. So this is the directional lines I was talking about. When you use this directional lines, it takes in the viewers into the painting. And you can see that there was a big blank space at the top. As soon as we added that streetwires, everything made sense. And I always tape my paper, and just to get the crisp edges on the border of my painting, so I know like how it looks like. So now you can take my reference or find your own reference and use the techniques of what I showed today and apply it in your painting, and let's see what you can come up with. Thanks again for watching this painting video with me. Let me know what you guys think about this video in the comment section below. If you have any other watercolor related topics you would like me to cover, reach out to me at watercolorimpressions@gmail.com or leave a comment down below. And be sure to hit the subscribe button. By hitting the subscribe button, you will receive weekly upload notifications and stay updated on our channel. And share with your fellow artists, friends and family. And good luck with your painting, folks.